Okay, we're recording. So what are we doing? This is our first unedited podcast about...
What is it about?
Yeah, what do you want the podcast to be about?
What are we talking about?
Well, we were talking about Alzheimer's.
I'm going to interview you.
No, we're finding out what we want to talk about, and I guess there is a lot of information about the disease, but not so much on the caregivers, and it seems like that's more of a focus for you, on dealing with the caregivers of people with, suffering. Mm-hmm. And why is that important, or why do you think that is something that needs to be talked about more?
Because I believe with the aging population, but in my case, it's not the aging population because my mom got it early at 57. So the reality is, probably in your lifespan, you will be a caregiver at some point. And I think if people are aware of that, maybe that's more of a fear factor. I don't think people know what they're bargained for.
I think in Canada, the assumption is, because everyone talks about, Canada's got great health care. I guess the assumption is people will be taken care of, because generally anything else, people are taken care of. You have a heart attack, you go to the hospital. So what's the difference? What do people need to know about the practical reality of having this disease and caring for someone in Canada with this?
Or, even with any other illness, namely a heart attack that you just said. Yeah, your initial care at a hospital and your doctor's visits are taken care of. But what about the aftercare? That's not covered under OHIP.
But I guess with Alzheimer's, there isn't really an initial hospital. It's like a slowly progressing disease. So there's no, like even with a stroke, there's an initial episode, right? There's something that happens and someone has a stroke and they have care, and then the aftercare is kind of scheduled. Is it the same with Alzheimer's, or is it just kind of, what's the process in being diagnosed, and is it something that's recognized by doctors easily, or is it something that you stumble upon?
No, there's no diagnosis. Somebody else has to notice it, and it's usually somebody removed. So a spouse probably won't notice it. They're too close for comfort, so they would just be thinking, you're doing it on purpose, or if erratic behavior would be, just be blamed on the actual person. So, and then the person doesn't know because of where the atrophy is in the brain.
Explain what that means if someone doesn't know.
Okay, so Alzheimer's, usually it's identified on a MRI scan, and it shows plaque on the brain, which is basically where the neurons die and they can't be replaced. So your brain is technically shutting down, and it's sort of like turning off lights in a house. So they'll never be turned back on. Like the power is out and that's it.
And do things like reconnect to...
No. Yeah. That's it. And
so can it be like specific, like, is it a memory that's shut down, or is it like how to wind a watch? Can it be that specific where...
Yeah. And it's not, you see, everyone thinks it's just memory loss, but it depends where the plaque is in your brain. It could be in the frontal lobe, it could be in the temporal lobe, it depends. So it usually presents, the first signs are the short-term memory loss. So where you, I guess I'll use that same example as a spouse, thinking that, you're just pretending, because the person could remember things from the past, and not even at the initial stage. It's not the distant past. People think, oh, it's just the distant. No, they can remember things. It's just short term. Like they wouldn't remember what they just did 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
It's completely gone. It's lost.
I know my dad is, I guess, and that's how me and Karen met. We were kind of, I wanted to read her book, and then we'll put a link to her book, because her book is really, really fascinating and eye-opening. That's what I get. I gave it to my mom. I gave it to another friend to read, and everyone's like, wow, it's an eye-opener. And so me and Karen met, and my dad is just going through nothing diagnosed. I know that through his older... hold on. This is the unedited part, because I got to adjust the microphone. I know through his older siblings that they went through something similar, where they got kind of forgetful in the short-term memory, and they're able to kind of function with help and not really hospitalize, or it never got to the stage where they needed outside caregiving. But so I'm kind of at the really beginning stages of kind of where you were 17 years ago. So we just started talking about I guess Karen's story and a preview to the story that I might be going through, and that's kind of how we got to this point. But I noticed with my dad too, like he can't remember. You know, he'll have stories and he'll talk to me about, oh my gosh, when I was 5, and he grew up in Aruba. I went down and they had this white cheese from Venezuela, and I would steal an egg from the chicken. They had chickens, and I would go trade it for candy and cheese. And I'm like, that's awesome. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? He's like, I don't know. You know, he's like 82. He remembers when he was 5, but he asked him what he had this morning. So I'm starting to see my dog is fascinated with Karen. Sorry, we're sitting in my basement. I'm a musician, so I've got kind of like a studio. So Ellie, my little dog, is completely fascinated by Karen. So anyways, that's kind of where we started. And I guess what would you say the goal is? Just to educate people?
Yeah, just to bring about awareness of, I think there's a lack of what Alzheimer's is. People think it's just forget, or a lot of people attribute it to aging or senility, or, but the reality is more and more individuals are being diagnosed early.
Yeah. And it's not normal.
No, it's not.
That's what you told
aging.
me. Yeah,
it's
like
actually not. So
for me, if it's not normal aging,
mm-hmm.
but everyone I know, except for a handful of people that in the immediate family that are older, and I have an aunt who's 95, I think, who zero, like she recollects everything very, very. So if it's not a normal function, then a lot of people have it.
Probably. It's like the 6 or top 10 major causes of death, and there's no cure.
And how does one actually die from it?
You don't. Well, that's why the statistics aren't correct. You don't really die from it. You die from something related to it. So you could probably get pneumonia. The last stage of the disease is you can't remember how to swallow.
Wow.
So you basically starve to death. Or you can get
unless it's intervened and like you're
if you want to
do
that and you get a feeding tube, that's fine. But okay.
Yeah.
Or you could have a seizure or a stroke or a heart attack. Like it's always something attributed from the disease, but like not actually. You don't die from it.
Right.
But they really should, once you're diagnosed, they should really say that it really was that killed you, because it's part of the brain shutting down, right?
So, if the statistics aren't correct, is there a correlation to the amount of funding related to that? So, if more people were attributed to that, do you think there would be more money or more focus? Is that part of the problem with the caregivers, that it isn't seen as something that's contributing to the amount of people passing away that are?
I think the whole thing is stigmatized. Like, it's so horrible to watch somebody that has the disease. So nobody really wants to talk about it. It's very depressing. So, like, I'm not comparing, and I always said I'm not comparing diseases, but with cancer, there's a possibility of a cure. And Alzheimer's, because it's so difficult to diagnose, usually people could probably have it. Like doing research in frontal temporal dementia, which is what I think my mom has. She wasn't diagnosed with it, but she just exhibits a lot of the signs. They say that if you have it, you could probably have it 10 years prior to it being diagnosed.
Yeah.
So you're basically living with it before it's diagnosed, and by the time 10 years hits, it's too hard to slow down the progression at that point.
Can they slow it down if it was caught early?
Yeah, like there's medication, there's Aricept or Reminol or Bixa. Like, they have medication to slow down the progression, which is pretty good, but it is what the inevitable is the inevitable. So it helps you function day to day, the medication, which actually is more for the caregiver than the person, right?
Sure.
It helps the caregiver.
That's what I found in your book. There was a lot of personal accounts of going through different medication, and then the medication might help, but it started a whole series of side effects, and at some point it didn't become worth it, or you don't think it was helping, yet the side effects were awful. So it's kind of interesting to see that. You have to make some decisions that are tough to make.
Well, the hard part is this. So you're on the outside looking in. The doctor is going based on medical theory and diagnosis and expertise, but you're going on day to day, and then you're dealing with someone or an individual that can't speak for themselves, because usually it's the same thing. Like, my mom has seizures, and obviously I'm not putting her on medication, but even when they first started presenting, it's not like you can ask, okay, well, what did you feel like before? What did you feel like after? You can't. And that's what you do when you go to the doctor, right? You go and you say, these are my list of symptoms. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this, and then this is what's happening. And then they do tests, and then they could give you a diagnosis and a medication that might help. With a person that's suffering from this disease, they can't tell you, especially if their speech is gone.
Yeah.
So you can't help them. You have to guess. It's always just like observation and like fear. Like, you're, okay, well, this is happening. This is happening. So how do you help somebody like that if they can't tell you?
And that's something that, like, an outside support worker, do they spend enough time with patients that they would never even see that?
No. It has to be close. Unfortunately, and that's just, I guess, how life is, you have to have a personal connection to somebody to actually really go above and beyond for care. That's just how it is.
Right. Or with other diseases. Yeah,
whether it's paid or not paid, you have to have a personal, right? Like, even if I'm paid, I'm going to care for you, and I'm probably going to build a relationship with you. But at the end of the day, it's going to be probably somebody who cares beyond that to say, you know what, let's try this and let's do this. And it's like a puzzle. Like, I think I said that in the book. I haven't read my book, so I can't really.
How can you not read your book?
Because no, it's not necessary. I already lived through it.
Yeah, I guess.
So I don't want
But
to read
would it be
the-
painful to reread it, or
Probably.
yeah?
I'd wonder why I'm not in a straitjacket.
When was the last time you cried about your mom?
I don't know. Sometimes it depends on the day. If I look at an old picture, maybe that might do it.
Yeah.
Like when but see, what I try to do is I remember things she would say, or like a snappy comeback she would give me, and then that alleviates the sadness.
Yeah.
So.
But do you find that you have to? It's weird because you have to be. You say you have to have a real close relationship, be able to notice little subtle changes in that, but that also opens you up to being even more part of the painful part of it.
Yeah.
And then you gotta have to shut down that part to be able to function and be just almost clinical about the care.
You have to, because a lot of...
See, this is why I drank when I read your book. I called Karen. I was like, there's like, again, we're gonna put the link in the podcast because we obviously can't talk about it. But at one point, it's just a series of really like, are we going to be swearing in this podcast? I think we should. So it's like series of really shitty things that have happened to you, like. Yeah, no, because how you can't just say, "Oh, it's unfortunate." Like sometimes things are just that's really shitty, you know. So at one point, I was reading the book and it was afternoon, and I'm like, "Oh, this is horrible! Like this is like so sad." And then something else happens, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" You know what? I'm gonna have a beer. And I think I messaged you. I'm like, "Okay, I'm just at chapter 5, and blah 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 happened, and now I had to have a beer." Holy crap. But, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's the worst part, even in the book, and you know that it progressively gets worse. Like, there's no happy endings. And that's the worst part, right?
Well, that's why it took me 13 years to write. Because, I always thought, okay, well, when I finish writing, is my mom going to die? Like, is that going to be the end of the story? And I didn't want that to be the end of the story. So I thought it was, like, my mom's life was somehow connected with my writing. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, clearly she's not going anywhere right now, so. Yeah.
I was waiting, like, for at least a little good news. You know, like, and then part of the book is there's, like, a lot of reference notes in that. So I didn't realize I was coming to the end when I was coming to the end. And then when I came to the end, I'm like, damn it. Like,
well, that's a compliment.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
That's a compliment. Well, I'm revising, so
okay.
I'll be adding the end of the journey. And it's still not completely over.
That's right. It's still going on.
Still continuing 17 years later.
Yeah. But what will you be adding? Just what has happened since the ending of that?
Yeah, I got a lot. You haven't been the only person who was like, I wanted to know what happened to this and that. So,
right.
And people do still want to know. When I do happen to speak about the book or my experiences, a lot of people automatically think that my mom has passed. And even last night, I went to a meeting and, talking. And I said, yeah, my mom's in palliative care now. And she's like, oh, so when did she transition to a home? I'm like, she didn't. She's still at home. So I guess it's just really an anomaly.
To me, the way you kind of talk about it and carry yourself, it's almost like your past, and maybe this is why people think that, because it's almost like you've passed the grieving stage and you're at the acceptance and can talk about it, but you're still in the middle of it.
Yeah, that took a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I will talk about that in the revised version. I will open up, the depression that I went through. I went through a really serious depression. And, but with me, how, when I'm depressed, I am very hidden. I don't bring anybody in, so I deal with it myself. So that's probably why people think, they can't look at me and think that I'm going through something. And that's a double-edged sword, too, because people are just, then I don't know what, well, you said it, so say it.
What did I say?
You said, I don't, say what you said. What do you mean? I can't tell you what you said.
We've said lots of things to each other.
No, you said, I look a different way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I present a different way.
Right. Because we're talking about doing this, and so I was kind of looking at Karen's like online persona or presence. And
this just in, it's not a persona.
Right. But I mean,
I know maybe people think it is.
But for some people, I'm a musician, so like there's a lot of people that present themselves where it's not really accurate, but it's kind of, that's what you do to play the game. Like it's just it's parts of you, but you highlight all the great stuff and you kind of minimize the crappy stuff. And but you're like your presence.
Okay, can I interject though?
No.
Yes,
Okay,
because what bugs me.
So you're gonna make me get I'm gonna get a beer now.
No, because like what bugs me is I'm very open, especially on social media.
Yeah.
Like I say things that I don't really even want to admit, and people are always like, "Thank you for having the courage to say what you're feeling and share your voice and whatever." And then you get "You're really going through that?" Like I just told you.
Yeah. Yeah. But because you look together and you look, and
I don't know what a caregiver
I
looks.
don't know. Yeah,
so should I walk around disheveled with? I don't know. Like, would that be more like? Would that have more impact?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean.
And why is that then?
Why? Yeah,
why do you automatically, if somebody is like, can't put themselves together, and I told you, I just finished saying, I went through that but I kept it hidden.
Right, yeah.
Because that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
You deal with things internal, like it's nobody's business. Right?
Yeah. But you want to make it people's business.
Why?
No, I mean, but now, like the purpose of this.
I'll share it now. I'll share it because I guess I'm strong enough to share it. Yeah. At the time, I wasn't.
But like, even if you don't show it, it's. I guess it's good for people to know that, you know what, it isn't. It's still not easy. And just because you're functioning in that doesn't mean it's any easier.
It's sort of like I look at it like this. You have an option, and that's like with anything you're going through, regardless, because I'm sure there's lots of people that probably have it like way worse than me. And that's the point. You have to, whatever challenges you're given, I think the easy way out is just to like, oh my gosh, woe is me, and kind of feel sorry for yourself. And nobody's saying, you do get a chance to say, this sucks, and I can't stand it, and I can't do one more day of this. But at the end of the day, you have to pull yourself together. Everybody has a challenge. Life isn't going to be easy. And then pick yourself up and get on with it. Yeah. And that's really the message. It's not, just do what I did. No, you do what you have to do. But I'm going to tell you what the reality is. Yeah. And then you can make a decision. That's all it is. It's just a decision. And that's what I did. It's just one day I said, I can't keep doing this. And I don't think my mom would want me to do this. Right. Like, it's so ridiculous what I'm doing. And I can see my dad shaking his head going, would you get on with it? Okay, I'm getting on with it now. But it wasn't an easy road to get there. Well, yeah. Okay, 17 years. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it looks like you've handled it. It's my online, whole son's life. Yeah, but it looks like you've handled it easily and gracefully and that. But that's what I was saying. When I looked at your just basically Facebook and Instagram. You know what it is? what people are really doing is looking at me, and then I don't know. I think they're just judging based on looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you said you read the story and what? Complete different scenario.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's why it's good that, you know, that the story gets out and the revision comes out and people read the book. And what I found and what I thought is like, I think you can save people a lot of time and effort with the navigation of how to get through Canada's health system dealing with this. So I think that's like valuable, you know. That's what I said. Like you have a unique way to sell that service, and to really help people.
I think it's, but I also want to change the way I want to change the way of how caregiving is, like, because really it's not, because people that I've had, people seem, I don't ever profess to say that I one-on-one caregive for my mom. I'm an informal caregiver.
Yeah.
I'm not health trained professional at all. And so people just you have help. Absolutely, I have help because my mom is, well, first of all, now she's bedridden.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you have to have help.
You can't
Unless
do it
you're
without...
a personal support worker by trade and you want to take on that role, that's great.
And
heroic.
And you have money to survive because who's going to pay you? Like, are you going to get paid if you?
There's no subsidy, by the way. And if people are thinking that too, like, oh well, she gets, because I've heard that comment, that I get money from the state. I don't know what state that is, but no, there's absolutely no money. I've never received any form of subsidy from the government for looking after my mom.
Is that even possible? Like, do they have that?
I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. Yeah. I know they have compassionate care leave.
But that's short term, right?
Yeah, and which is hilarious.
There's no short term with 17 years later.
But, yeah, my doctor stopped guessing. He's like, he used to say, okay, I give her 6 months. And just based on her, appearance and whatever. And then when she survived the 6 months, he's like, okay, forget it. I'm not doing it anymore. He goes, I refuse. That's
like the old joke, the doctor gives you 6 months to live and they give you a bill of $50,000 and they're like, there's no way I can pay that in 6 months. They're like, well, how long is it going to take? Well, it'll take me okay, so I'll give you a year to live now. Yeah.
No, she, nobody's guessing and nobody's doing that anymore. So we don't know. But, there's and regardless of what, like, it's not that you can't work anyways. Let's get back to that too, because I want to change that view of, your caregiver, because employers are very unsympathetic. I'm just going to say it. They are not. So unless this affects you personally and you know how challenging it is, again, it goes back to, unless it's personally, it's your loved one, and nobody's really going to care.
I think we're going to do a future podcast based right on employees and what needs to be done to get that information out to them. But yeah, there's a huge gap, right? Workplaces don't get it.
No. It's not that you can't work. You can absolutely work. And you could work in your whatever field you were in. They have to just be more creative and flexible in the work environment to accommodate somebody who's going through this. Because, like, especially for Alzheimer's, because I can only speak to that, it is day to day. It changes. It fluctuates. You are on call. I'm always on call.
And you can't predict.
No.
Yeah.
Like my mom could have a seizure right now. Not that I can do anything about it.
Right.
But even hearing about it is traumatic.
Sure.
So, the other side of this is I have PTSD, right? So because you're always on, like, you've seen, you've witnessed so many traumatic events that you can't control, because I can't help my mom when she's having a seizure.
Yeah.
And if you've ever witnessed, you said you have, but imagine seeing that like several times.
Well, I witnessed a total stranger when I was at a restaurant, and he was surrounded by his family, and it was horrible.
Yeah. So
and I didn't know the man, and it was horrible for me, right? So if that was my father, it probably multiplied by 10, kind of, if not more.
And that's what started her journey into palliative. She had a bad seizure, and she was unresponsive. So she had to be rushed to the hospital. And so, and the doctor had said she is healthy other than her Alzheimer's, which is another, and he said he attributes it to her care. She's obviously well taken care of. He could see that. And he said her seizures will probably get progressively worse, and then she will probably just die from like having a seizure because her brain is completely shrunk, right? So that's why I'm like, because I'm always like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is she? And so that's the reality of it. There's a lot of other things that you suffer as a caregiver that you yourself go through. Like you'll get compassion fatigue, you'll get maybe PTSD depending on what you've witnessed. Because this isn't a normal thing that if you decide that you're not going into the healthcare profession, these aren't normal things that you should be witnessing.
Right.
Well, I don't think you should be witnessing that regardless. But
I've had to witness some stuff with my dad.
Okay.
That I don't,
Well, there's a lot of things I witnessed with my mom that I really didn't want. I'd like to wipe it out of my brain, but I can't.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more talks. I think this is like a great introduction for our first one. And how often do we want to do this? Weekly, monthly?
Maybe monthly.
Monthly? Yeah.
Well, depends. Depends on what people say. Let's hear feedback. Like it's,
I know stories happen daily, but we can...
we see what people want. What do you guys want?
Yeah,
what
so maybe, in the comment section.
Send some questions, maybe.
Yeah.
And topics that you want covered, or...
Okay, so... Well, what's your book called?
Alzheimer's, What They Forget to Tell You.
Okay, and we'll put a link. I think there's only like a limited run. The next run's going to be a limited run before the revision comes out.
Yeah, I'm doing one more order, and I'll put that information out this coming week. I'm going to order probably 100 copies.
And where else can people find you? Just under your name on Facebook?
Chapters online.
Okay. But like even to find you online.
Oh yeah, just my name.
Facebook, just Karen Leid, Leid.
Regular spelling.
Regular.
Caron.
Yeah.
Leid.
Is that a normal spelling? I've never seen it before.
I'm being very sarcastic.
I know, but like, is it like a Trinidadian
Are you
spelling?
really doing that right now? Didn't you see that post that I put?
I know.
Where people ask, that's an interesting name. I didn't give myself the name.
I know, but like most names come from a place and they know, like my brother's Sean.
Who should I ask? Should I ask my mom?
Well, maybe you could have. Like how, like this was the first time you've heard about it? I'm sure you've heard about it your whole life. Karen.
Whatever.
Maybe you want to say it weird, Karen.
No, that's not how you say it. It's just Karen.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was before like people got funky with their names.
First of all, I'm pretty sure that's
old school funky.
No, because it's actually French.
See, this was my question, and you did know the answer, but you had to be difficult.
Yeah, because like I can't. That's I didn't do it. I didn't say I would like to be named Karen.
See, this is what. Oh, now the phone's ringing. Like,
Oh,
this is
see?
really unedited.
Yeah.
All right. So, French Karen,
Whatever.
we will talk again in the next month.
Trinidadian spelling. I'm still on that.
Well, I don't know. That's why I was asking the question.
Really?
Yeah. My parents are from
What's
Aruba.
Trinidadian spelling?
You know, it could be like...
Wouldn't it be like A-N?
like Karen.
First of all, when I lived in Trinidad, they wouldn't call me Karen. It would be my entire name.
Oh, really?
All the time.
Yeah.
Karen Lee. Like, I was never just Karen.
Well, my parents are from... It's weird because we have talks about the family. We're getting off topic, but this is part of it. We're just chit-chatting. But every one of my... Even my mom's real name is Eleanor, but they call her Eileen. But some people call her Viv, and some people call her Dot.
No, see.
And we don't know why. Like, everyone's got aliases in the Caribbean. Like, nobody wants to be found or something. So maybe that's why they gave you your...
No, my mom was always Marlene,
Yeah.
and my dad was always George. So, yeah.
And you've always been Karen.
Very funny.
All right.
First of all, why is it that as soon as you say...
Are we going to
like,
end this with you yelling at me?
Why is it... I just know because I need to know now.
Yeah.
Why is it that when you say, like, you're from Trinidad or whatever, people always start doing a weirdo accent?
Well, there is a Trinidadian accent.
Yeah, but why are you doing it?
I think I can because...
I don't think you can.
Because my parents are from the islands. Too.
So, that just,
That's right. I have the right to...
I don't think so.
Okay. You don't even do a Trinidadian accent.
Right. So,
Okay.
what does that tell you?
Anyways, so that's it for this episode, and we will talk to you if Karen's still talking to me.
Yeah,
This might be the last time we've ever talked.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be somebody else. It'll be somebody else in 1 month. Yeah. So. All right.
But they'll be from Trinidad.
What's that?
With the accent.
With the accent. And they have the right to say it. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.